It no longer serves normal people, normal citizens, and that we aren't going to get any of the things we really want with regard to healthcare or education or a living wage or clean air and clean water, or deal with our climate problems until we get back to government, because they won't let us do it. And for the last 10 years, I have been basically full-time organizing coalitions of ordinary American citizens around the country to take on corporate power. And we've been winning. You know, I started 10 years ago taking on oil companies in California who were trying to repeal our very progressive energy laws. And nobody thought anyone could ever beat the oil companies because they have unlimited money and they'll do whatever it takes. And so there weren't a lot of people competing to lead that coalition. So I got to do it, and we got 70% of the vote. I beat tobacco companies, we won 17 times in a row. I closed $1 billion corporate tax loophole and gave it to the public schools. We've beaten the drug companies. I've had a history, not just in California, but taking them on. And the second thing is this. The organization Jill was describing, which is called Next Gen America, did the largest youth voter mobilization in 2018 in American history. We've been in Iowa. I've been coming to Iowa to organize since the beginning of 2014, so this is 6 years that I've been coming here for that. And in 2018, we were on 41 campuses in Iowa. And where we were, we doubled the turnout of more than doubled the turnout of young voters, and we were in the districts for Abby Finkenauer and Cindy Axner. So in 2018, Next Gen America chose 38 congressional districts that were Republican, more than double the turnout of young people, and 33 of those districts flipped. So we believe young people, largest demographic in the United States, voted half the rate of other Americans. When they turn out, everything changes. So our goal has been to try and make sure they understand how critical their vote is and to make sure that they do in fact turn out. Let me say one thing about who I am. I mean, I do sometimes think when I read the paper about myself that I've changed my name to Billionaire Tom Streyer. Listen, let me tell you who I actually am. My mom was from Minnesota. My grandfather taught at the University of Minnesota. My uncle Sam taught at the University of Iowa in Iowa City for 45 years. My Aunt Betsy is going to turn 100 in Iowa City on December 15th, 2019, and she explained to me that I had better be there. Of course I will, Betsy, of course I will. But my mom ended up teaching in New York public schools and in the Brooklyn House of Detention. And my dad, whose father was a plumber, was the first generation in his family to go to college. He was a lawyer. He stopped his legal career to go into the Navy in World War II. He prosecuted the Nazis in Europe. I did not consider them to be unusual. They were that Depression, World War II generation. Make sure you give as much back to the country as you get, at least. That's what they had. That was the family I grew up in. That was the value system that I grew up in. That's the value system I live in. So if you look and see what I've been trying to do, to me, I mean, to talk for 1 second about what's the top of the news, the impeachment problem. You know, I started Need to Impeach 2 years ago. Isn't that different from what honestly, when I thought my father was doing prosecuting Nazis? He said, when I asked him, the last Nazi that he prosecuted came out of jail in 1970 when I was 13 years old. And the guy got pretty good press. And I said to my father, did you interview him? He ran the Nazi war machine. He said, I interviewed all the top Nazis, I interviewed this guy multiple times. So I said, is he what the press says, the good Nazi? And he said, there are no good Nazis. And the point is, he said, when you see something really wrong, you fight it. And that's really what impeachment was about for me, and why I tried to get the American people to stand up. Because if you believe this government is broken, the American people are not broken. And that my belief has always been, the way we're going to bring the corporations is the American people insist. The way we're going to bring Mr. Trump to justice is the American people insist, and drag Washington, D.C. to what's right, kicking and screaming the whole way. Let me say one last thing, and then I really would like to move questions. I do think we have to retake our government. I do think we have to stabilize the climate. I'd love to hear what you guys think on that second point, because I'm a true, for at least 10 years, I'm by far the most aggressive person in this field on climate, by far. I've worked on this for 10 years, and you can look at my record. It's very strong. It's much stronger than anybody else in this field. I've really worked on it. But let me say this, if we do those two things, retake the government and stabilize the climate, we have no reason to be sad. We are in the best position of any people in the history of this planet. We're in a place, we're rich, we're technologically capable, we'll have a working democracy, all the things that we want, we can get. We can get health care as a right, we can get the education that young people need and deserve, we will get a living wage, we will rechange the way the money gets split up in this society, which is a abomination at this point. And we will get clean air and clean water as a right for every American. Those are all things that are within our grasp if we retake this government and it starts to simply act for the people instead of for the profit lines of corporations. So I don't look at this, and I listen to these debates, it sounds like we're a failed society. We're the most successful society ever. We have a failed government. We're not a failed people, we're the most successful people ever. I've traveled around this country. The people of Iowa are fantastic. The people around this country are fantastic. We have a government that's been bought and doesn't work for the people, okay? It's a challenge. It is a challenge. Not the first challenge Americans have ever faced. And we've always been up to it when the time came. So this is the time. So I look at this and go like, let's do these two things. They're not trivial at all. And I can tell you, I want term limits. I'm going to say things about restructuring this government that no one else will say. I want term limits. Everybody else, the term limits would affect them. No one else is for term limits. We'd be rid of Mitch McConnell. Yes. Not to be rude, but we'd be rid of Chuck Grassley. There's a reason we have term limits. I would do a national referendum. And I'll say, in 26 states, people can put a law on the books. And if enough people vote for it, it becomes law regardless of what the legislature says. So if they won't do it and overwhelming numbers of Americans want it, the way over 90% of Americans want mandatory background checks on guns, then it just happens. We don't have to listen to anything. We don't have to listen to them explain why they can't do it, but it's very complicated. You just do it. No one else is going to come after that, because that would end the monopoly of the Congress on passing laws and it'd go back to the people. And we do need to get rid of the idea that corporations are people. I always say, the drug companies are not people. We're going to have to say we're going to do this, we're going to have to vote to do this, and then we're going to have to do it. But having said that, I really am here to listen to you guys and hear what's been going on here. So if I'm going to get down off this and just walk around and we could have whatever kind of questions you want to ask or whatever you want to tell me about what's going on here, I'm really interested to hear and to listen.
Hi, Tom. First, I just
Will you just tell everybody your name so
James Norris from Red Oak, Iowa.
everybody may know you?
Everybody else knows you. James, nice to meet you. Nice to meet you, Tom. Tom, first of all, just thanks for being a private citizen and doing the things you've been doing the last few years, standing up to this lawless president. I really appreciate that. I think everybody in the room does, so I want to let you know that first. Second of all, I come from a farming community. I'm a farmer myself, although I live on a farm and own some farm ground. But the Trump tariffs and the China trade deal has got the farmers really back against the wall, besides the climate change issue too. And so maybe you can address that. And also, one thing I haven't heard on the debate is when you address also the nobody seems to care anymore about the federal debt and what's going to happen there. So I'd like you to talk about that too. Thanks.
So, James, let me say this. I spent 27 years building a business, starting in one room with no employees and a room didn't even have windows, into a multi-billion-dollar international company. So I really feel as if I've spent decades of my life understanding what drives economies, what drives industries, what drives communities, what drives countries. Because if you invest around the world, you have to understand why Singapore is so successful and Argentina is so unsuccessful over decades. It's not a fluke. So I look at the trade policy. Mr. Trump, I've said this on TV, you maybe haven't seen it yet. He's a fraud and a failure as a businessman. He's a fraud and a failure as a steward of our economy. It's just a mistake. The trade war, the tariff is a mistake. I would rescind every single tariff on the first day that I was president. It's not effective, but it does hurt Americans. It's kind of like, really? Why would you? It's a bad idea, poorly executed. But I think beyond that, he's someone, if you look at his he's done three things. Trade, terrible idea. If you look at his tax plan, he gave over $1 trillion to the richest Americans and their corporations at the expense of every other working American. That was the worst idea I've ever, that was the biggest giveaway. It was the proof that corporations really own the country. Because they said, we'd like $1 trillion, and they said, sure, $1 trillion, how about 1.2? Honestly, I've never seen policy quite as bad. And so when you look, this is from a Republican Party that spent decades telling us that they were the adults in the room, they weren't going to tax and spend, they were the responsible. Trump said he was going to balance the budget. You remember that? And then he literally said that $1 trillion deficit at full employment, so that when the time comes, we have a rough time, we have no bullets in the gun to handle the problem. And so you see him, he's leaving us in a terrible spot this way, incredibly irresponsible, exactly what you would expect from a casino owner who borrowed a bunch of money, made a lot of promises, and put Atlantic City into bankruptcy. So honestly, I can't imagine anyone more irresponsible and dishonest about the economy and incompetent than this man. And so, as somebody who spent years thinking about what actually brings success to countries, what actually makes people succeed, I would love to talk to him about it, because I'd love to take him on the stage, and I think I know an awful lot more about this than any other Democrat who's running. Because actually, if I weren't good at this, I would have gone bankrupt in my company.
Amen.
Tom, Dave Bagley from Omaha. Thanks for the beer.
Where's mine?
One later. So, President Obama just spent $12 million on a beachfront house on Martha's Vineyard. Now, by his actions, isn't President Obama just saying global warming is just a giant scam?
So, Dave, I'm assuming, can I interpret your question and you tell me if I'm right? Because it's on Martha's Vineyard and costs so much, does that mean he gets an ocean view?
Well, yeah.
And so the idea is, if it's close to the ocean and he's bought it, that therefore if the ocean rises, it will in fact take his house away with everybody else's. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. Is it Miami flooding?
Let me say this. I know that President Obama knows that climate is not a scam. I think people that, and I think that, I don't know where the house is, but I take your point that virtually all oceanfront property is threatened. I think what is true, and if you take a look, is that it really depends, it's different. I mean, I'm going to defend President Obama here. And here's my argument. First of all, I have talked to President Obama numerous times about climate, so I know he's not bluffing. This is something he takes seriously, and he actually did, I thought, an outstanding job specifically pulling together Paris. which I think his administration, with him at the lead, that Paris Climate Accord would never have happened without President Obama and his administration, never. I thought it was a triumph that he pulled it off, and I know that he understands the science and that the people in his administration were very thoughtful and hardworking on this. But just to answer this question, to show that I have a little bit of a wonk on this, for the people who are most worried about losing their houses, it's actually differential depending on where you are. And so obviously the people who are most at risk are the people further south where the hurricanes tend to go, Dave. So like Miami and South Carolina up to North Carolina, the hurricane country in the U.S. is really in the south.
And
the
Alabama.
reason is because it's too big.
And Alabama.
Yeah, and it's really based on, but it's really based on the temperature of the water. You know, likelihood of hurricanes, severity of hurricanes, are actually, what's changing it is that the water temperature is heating up in the Caribbean. So as you see that change, you see the increased frequency, increased severity. When you get up to Martha's Vineyard, the water's relatively cold, so you don't see hurricanes in the north the way you do in the south. Obviously, there are exceptions, but I'm just sticking up for Obama. He may have made an irrational choice, which does believe in climate.
I'm Blaine Kirkup from Pottawattamie, Iowa. And I'd just like your thoughts on the ethanol situation and then the giving of those oil waivers to all the companies and just turning it all upside down and the different ethanol plants that are closing down because they can't make money.
Yeah. Like, what are the oil waivers? I'm not, what is that refer to?
See, President Trump up the 15% usage of ethanol throughout the entire year, so it created a better market for the ethanol product. All right. Then about 2 weeks after that, he gave waivers to the to several oil companies, like 31, so that they had to show a hardship that they would have to be using that blend. So he gave them a waiver where they didn't have to use.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what that does is it's cutting our ability to make money in these different refineries, the ethanol plants. And up in northwest Iowa and across Iowa, they're closing right now because they aren't making any money.
Okay. So let me say this. Ethanol was one of the early attempts to use biofuels to basically reduce greenhouse gas emissions. And people used to give ethanol a hard time to say it didn't work that well. But what I've seen is actually the ethanol producers and the people in Iowa, specifically the corn growers, have worked really hard to make it work a lot better. So actually what I think has happened is the environmental community hasn't kept up with the increased effectiveness of ethanol. And so to me, biofuels are something that is really critical for us going forward in terms of reducing greenhouse gas emissions. So and the idea of getting away from the most effective biofuel in order for oil companies not to use it or to give them waivers makes no sense to me.
Yeah, and it's just, farmers are having a hard enough time with the flooding in a situation like this, and the global changing is shortening up our entire season, and then he throws that fuel on the fire, and it's just like,
Look,
we did.
one of the things that is really obvious from the outside is that Mr. Trump has not lived up to his promises to farmers, and he's not lived up to his promises to farm states, and he knows nothing about agriculture whatsoever. And he has no feel for it, and he has no feel for the people who live in those places. And I think if you look at the trade war, it's obvious he didn't understand who was doing huge exports around the world. And if you look at ethanol, it's obvious he has a lot of feeling for oil companies, but no feeling for farmers. And when you look at how this country works and really what's driving trade and what's driving big parts of the country, he obviously has no idea how it feels to live on a farm. And he has no idea to understand how tough that can be, how tight the margins can be, and how hard people work to try and be as productive as possible and are really amazing You know, I was last year, I wasn't running for president, but we were organizing in Iowa, and I was at the Iowa State Fair with my daughter, flipping pork burgers. I'm sitting there talking to these hog farmers, and they were telling me how many hogs they raised. And I raised grass-finished beef, and I didn't even want to tell them how many animals we had, because it was like, no, I really don't want to, because they're feeding the world. And I said, that's just an unbelievable number of animals. And he said, well, everybody wants a sausage in the morning. And I was like, yeah, I guess that's true. So I think people outside of farm country don't understand kind of how productive people are here. The size of the operations. It's really hard to believe unless you get down and see it. And as someone who actually raises animals myself, to see that how people do it and how good they are at it is incredible. And so I am not in favor of cutting farmers' legs out from under them by short-term decisions about, supporting these political supporters. Thank you. You see that question right there?
Oh, yeah.
Chuck Cassidy from Omaha. We are in the impeachment process, but we have some headwinds with the Department of Justice. Any of your ideas on that?
Well, Chuck, I have been here, and so I'm not sure I caught every piece of news today. I did see that Secretary Pompeo was refusing to answer subpoenas, and I'm confident that the Trump administration will do everything they can not to obey the law and to obstruct justice going forward. But let me say this. My belief about impeachment is the court that matters is the people in this room. It is the court of public opinion. It is the American people's opinion that I care about and that I believe will rule the day. Because I believe, and I know you said that you're from Omaha, but I'm just going to use Iowa for a second because I think we're going to talk about that because I know how it's going to work in Iowa. If they put these impeachment hearings on TV, and Americans of both parties say what I believe they'll say because it's what they say every time we ask them as part of the need to impeach. Every time that we ask people, Trump supporters and Trump opposers, what do you think? Here's the evidence. They would say, I didn't know it. He's a liar and a cheat. If I did that, I'd go to jail. So my point is, if everybody in Iowa, Republican voters, Democratic voters, independents, people who like Mr. Trump, people who can't stand Mr. Trump, says that's not okay, he should go, Joni Ernst is going to have to vote for him to go. Or she's going to go.
Yeah.
She's gonna go in.
She's going anyway.
What I care about in impeachment is the people in this room. Just like what I care about in terms of getting our government back is the people in this room. If we all decide, if the American people decide, we're going to impeach this guy, we're going to throw him out, and we're going to get our government back, we're going to do it all. And that's what I believe in, and that's what I've been trying to push for. Is I trust the wisdom and the integrity and the compassion and the courage of the American people. That's what I'm pushing for. That's what I'm counting on, and that's what I believe will win the day in impeachment.
My name is Bill. I live here in Council Bluffs. I just graduated from college last year with.
Dude, congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. And I'm actually part of the Need to Impeach movement as well. But with the rising cost of student debt, talk about how you would help students like me help pay off the debt, or I know some of the other candidates have proposed canceling debt.
So let's talk about this, and let's go back to the question, the basic value question here, which is young people. You don't look 19, but 42. I'm going to go with young, okay? Who are trying to get an education, become more productive people, and better citizens. That's exactly what the government should be supporting. exactly what the government should be supporting. What we should definitely not be doing is loan sharking people who are trying to get an education and become more productive people, which is what we asked them to do in the first place, as Americans. So when I look at this debt, I know that there are 44 million people with student debt, that half of them have decided to delay either getting married or delay having a kid because of the student debt. And those are about as personal and important decisions as anybody makes in their life. So that means it's right at the heart of what's going on with people. And I also know that the rate on that debt is ridiculously high. The bank, where banks hold it, the average rate is over 10%, non-dischargeable debt, and if the government holds it, it's over 6%. So I look at this and I have a whole bunch of reactions to it, which is, first of all, shouldn't we be doing everything we can to make this as easy to pay off? Much, much lower subsidized rates, yes. Shouldn't we be saying to the people who use their degree to do something for the country that is not their highest return, that we will cancel that debt over time? Yes. We do that for military people, for service people. Shouldn't we be doing that for teachers and social workers and nurses and anybody who's saying, I'm going to get this degree and partially use it for everybody else? We should cancel it. But in all cases, we should be working to get people out of this as fast as possible. It's not a source of money for the United States of America. That's not the point. And the other question is this. When we look around, the way that colleges work, public colleges work, is it's statewide. You know, the University of California system is paid for by California tax dollars. The University of Iowa is paid for with Iowa tax dollars. If you go around, which I've done to all these states, I've done over 50 town halls for Need to Impeach. And that's in red states. In all of those red states, if you have a Republican governor, Republican legislature, Republican state senate, they cut taxes on corporations and rich people, and the first thing they do is cut health for education, including higher ed. So the question here is, shouldn't all of these places be providing as much aid and as low tuition and as low cost of college as possible? Because this is the only thing, we should be supporting everybody like you, Bill. We should be saying, at 42, you're going to get your college degree. We love that. Now, how can we make it easier? That's exactly what we should be saying. Now, I would say this, and I'd love to hear feedback on this, because I'm not sure I'm right. 23% of Americans have college degrees. Of people over 21, whatever it is. Well, so that means 77% don't. We should be absolutely supporting people as much as possible. And that's the goal, to help people get a degree, but also help people get all kinds of continuing education so they can get high-skilled jobs, high-paid jobs that otherwise will either go unfulfilled or someone else will come from outside the United States to get it. So I look at this as, if you want to know what I think makes America prosperous, it's investing in Americans. America is us. It's not the fields, it's not the buildings, it's not what we sing about, it's Americans. And if America's going to succeed, Americans have to succeed. And the government has to support them and help them. That's the goal. That's why I look at the Republican policy and think it's nuts. If you look at Mr. Trump's budget, he cuts every single thing that helps an American, and he supports every single thing that ends up with someone holding a gun. And it's a pretty simple breakdown. And that just doesn't make any sense in 21st century. Hey, you guys, I would like to hear how this flooding is impacting your lives, and what you think about it, and what you think the government should be doing, and what you think, overall, what do you think is going on?
And then I live over by the 68029 flow flood. Yeah. And it has shut down 4 or 5 times already over the last few months, and so I've had to take longer routes. And my route to work, well, I do supervise visits to the state, so sometimes a 20-minute trip turns into a 45-minute trip and everything. And because of all the flooding, all the water that keeps flooding the interstates and over on 680 East, if you get a chance to go that way, the water's literally right at the bank line, and it's getting ready to spill back over onto the interstate again.
So has there been a lot of hardship here as a result? But I checked 4 floods this year, which I think were like March, June, September, and then this one. Has it caused real hardship? Have you had hardship? Have your friends had hardship? I'd really like to hear what's going on, because I've seen pictures, but we weren't allowed to do the boat trip because of the tornado.
Sally Ruddle, Council Bluffs. Nice to meet you, Tom.
Nice to meet you, Sally.
I can't tell you firsthand, but I met a gentleman who has lost everything from the flooding, everything, and now lives in who has worked for Union Pacific all his life, did well in life, put it into his house is gone, insurance doesn't cover it.
Why does the insurance not cover it?
Insurance doesn't do well with floods, does it? Yeah, and then you have to pay more for flood insurance. Most of the time, the insurance doesn't help you, a lot of people. And now lives in a trailer on his sister's property.
Really?
Yeah.
So are people up in arms about the insurance question?
Good question.
The one thing about
What, can you just
insurance, oh, I'm sorry, Marcy from Omaha.
Marcy?
Insurance, at least this is what we were told, you're not allowed to even buy flood insurance unless you are in a flood zone. And then, of course, it's sky high. Because we wanted to get flood insurance because we live on a hill at the bottom of all of our neighbors. And they wouldn't let us buy flood insurance.
Did you get flooded out?
Our basement has flooded twice since we've lived there.
So what do you guys think, Marcy, I don't want to pick on you.
Okay.
What do you guys think we should do? I have my theories, but I'd like to know that people who are living in a place that's at least undergoing extreme weather feel is an appropriate response, both in terms of response in terms of the problem, response in terms of anticipating the specific problem, and the issue about anticipating the whole big worldwide problem.
My name is Herb Christensen. I'm here in Council Bluffs. We flooded, I believe it was 4 or 5 years ago, because the Corps of Engineers evidently held too much water back, and the dam was in danger of being undermined through the spillway and failing. We've had dam failures in Nebraska upstream this year, and I think finally the Corps of Engineers management techniques of the water that it's entrusted with through this basin way up into North Dakota has come into question.
Herb, are you talking about the whole Missouri? Is that what
The
we're...
whole Missouri, way up above. There's been failures in northwest Nebraska, but the levees here, after being soaked so long, have started to fail. And way south of here, there have been people flooded 4 or 5 years ago, flooded again. They will not go back, they move into town. But it has to do with the management of the water by the Corps of Engineers. And I think that now they have decided that they will go back to managing it with the levees in mind instead of tourism. But in the meantime...
So hang on a second, Herb. So they had been managing it with...
Fishing, boating, swimming.
I see, to make the
They brought the
river
water
sewer
back to
attractive.
make sure that they had enough. And maybe, I don't know for sure, changes in weather patterns or not, but now they have more water up behind the dams to where our dam is Gavin's Point. And they were going to reduce flows out of Gavin's Point, but with the water coming at them, they had to open it up and flow it out and let it out as quickly as they could to preserve the integrity of that dam. And that then causes flooding in the whole river basin. And in addition, Missouri can't empty as fast because Mississippi and Ohio are also flowing at record levels, so it's all backed up. We have not had regular water in Council Bluffs for a year or more, and the whole west end of Council Bluffs, this might be in a floodplain right here because we have a creek behind here that's buried under the street. But I think this area is all in a floodplain. But the area that really suffers is on the Missouri River between Omaha and Council Bluffs. There's from 40th Street to say 16th Street and north to south, that many homes have been full of water, basements have collapsed, families have had to move, and it is a real problem. The suffering of the people in Council Bluffs has been terrible, but south of here, Pacific Junction and places like that, the roads have been washed away, houses, the rivers come up, swallowed excavators that were trying to repair it. So yeah, it's been a...
So I've heard before tonight, or what you're saying, which is people have been upset about the way the Corps of Engineers has handled it. I've definitely heard that. But the other thing that I've heard, which I'm interested in what you guys think about, is I've also heard that there's actual uncertainty in the community about the broader question, about whether this is a reflection of global climate change, or if it's just, if it's a series of unfortunate but unrelated, not necessarily related incidents. So I'm interested to hear what people think and what they're hearing in the community about the broader question, because I think there's no question that we should be helping people who are in trouble. And there's no question that we should be anticipating the trouble so that when it comes, it's as we can control the damage as much as possible. Those are things that we absolutely can all agree on regardless. But I'm very interested to understand how people are thinking about this on a broader scale, and whether there's a sense that we should be doing a broader climate action on it or not.
Let's take some
My name is William Copper. I'm from Omaha. I'm 26 years old. I'm currently going to school at UNO to be a teacher, and I'm a 6-year combat veteran as well. So, when it comes to climate change, I'm listening to everyone talking about it, and I agree more. The biggest threat to this country right now is not ISIS, it's not Trump, it's climate change. And when we're talking about climate change, we need to take it serious and realize that 100 companies in this country commit 70% of emissions. So these natural disasters that are happening are not going to stop until we start taking it serious and put taxes on these corporations to help pay for the effects of climate change. So I'm asking you, as a presidential candidate, if you would support a natural disaster tax on large corporations to help pay for the effects of climate change.
So, it's William?
Yes, sir.
Okay, just want to make sure I got your name right. Yes, but let me give you a sense, and I'd love to get feedback from you of how you feel about it. Look, I'm the most aggressive person running for president in terms of action on climate. And I'm the most aggressive, and I've worked on it for 10 years, taking on these oil companies and taking on the utilities in the places where they won't do clean energy and winning. And the reason I've been doing it is I've been worried for 10 years that people would suffer, that when the time came, the kinds of things that are happening here would happen on a very broad scale. And that it would be, we would of course help people, we would of course anticipate the problems, but there would be more than we could handle. That people would still be going through gut-wrenching, terrible experiences on a very broad scale, and that their health and safety would be in danger. So when I think about it, William, my goal, I would declare a state of emergency on day one. I would make it the #1 priority of my presidency. I would go to the communities like this one to make sure that what we were doing worked on a local level. That's something, every single thing I've done on energy, climate, pollution, I've gone to the communities to hear what people say who live there because they know, you guys know so much more about Council Bluffs and Omaha than I do, that it would be preposterous for me not to listen. And the third thing I'd say is this. This is an international problem. It requires an international solution with American leadership. One of the things I said was, I declare a state of emergency on day one. I don't know how we go to China, India, Brazil, Poland, Turkey, and say, we want you to clean up this problem, but we're not going to do our share. If you want to lead, you've got to be willing to do what you're asking people to do. And so, in answer to your question, I'm not opposed to taxing people to get the money to pay for the cleanup, but what I'm really interested in doing is making sure there aren't too many cleanups. And so, the real goal that I have is to put in regulations and rules that make sure that we change as fast as possible and that we actually preserve the earth for ourselves, for our kids, for our grandkids. And I look at this, I mean, if you look at Iowa, this is a state that has traditionally had the richest earth in the world. This is a place where there has been abundance of natural bounty. I know everybody here would like that to be true going forward. And and that's what I'm interested in, is that it's a place where not only we're safe, but our kids are safe, and our grandkids are safe, and we actually do what Americans have always sworn we do, which is hand on a country that's better to the next generation than the one we got from the previous generation. So I am going to be as president, I am going to be very, very determined to make sure we get this right. And I'm going to, in a way that I don't think anyone else is, because I have, for 10 years, we're ahead of the game, and they were making sure that actually these 500-year incidents that seem to be happening every 5 years are something that we're heading off at the pass.
My name's David Harris. I'm a Philly, Nebraska native. I was actually a Republican lifelong until last year on September 11th. I changed to Democrat. And Tom, you're definitely the reason, why most of us were waking up when you started the impeachment. When you said that, all you had to do was think about the man's character. I vote for character in a presidential candidate. Everyone knew he put his orange makeup on. He was a clown. And they elected this man. Here's why I think they elected him. William's right. I agree with William, but not about the taxes. The reason I was a lifelong Republican is most of my friends around my pavilion, they don't want to pay more taxes. But so the Republicans have owned that forever. And you don't want to tell them you can't have private insurance. My friends do not want private insurance. I'm all for single payer, actually. But I'm a little different. I'm probably a liberal Republican, but I changed, so I'm a Democrat. I'm just saying that somehow, Tom, you have to come out and be more like Bill Clinton was in the way that he was a new Democrat. If you don't own that and own what he did, you're never going to convince those independent voters that are like, maybe some of my friends that got construction, they're single guys. They got a truck, they're remodeling houses, these guys, they don't want more taxes. Now, they're not even for the corporations getting that tax. They want to spend their own money, Tom. If you can own that in the way Bill Clinton did, you'll get some of these guys back. You can't. I just wanted to say that because one of the first things I wanted to say was when I'm talking to my friends, they're not wanting to go. I want to have my own insurance. I don't want somebody telling me that's what killed Obama. He said we're going to do this and everybody's going to own it and you're going to have to pay a penalty. That ruined it. That's why they voted for Trump. The economy was. That's what did it. I'm telling you, this is the middle ground.
Well, let me say this. And will you remind me of your name?
Dave Parrish.
Dave. Well, let me start by saying, actually, I'm for public option. That I want everybody to have health care as a right. I want to use the power of the government to drive down the costs. I want to make it much cheaper because we pay twice as much for healthcare as any other country in the world. And I want to beat these companies who are beating the American people so they can make more money. And it's not fair. And I think we can do it through the public option. But I also don't want to tell 150 million Americans who know their own health care situation and their families better than anybody else, that if they want to get it through their employer, which they negotiated, they don't have the right to do that. I want them to choose the public option because it's their choice and it's cheaper and better. But I don't want to tell them they have to or they're going to go to jail. That's ridiculous. 150 million people, they know their life, it's their choice. Still a free country. But I want to make a couple other points. One is this. I have two rules in politics. Tell the truth, put the American people first. If you do those two things and we disagree on everything, it's fine. Really, because it's like, that's just democracy. We're telling the truth and we're trying to figure out the best thing for the American people. I'm good with it. Nobody wants to pay taxes. They don't. Nobody wants to pay taxes. But we need a government. And we've gone to a place, look, every other country, advanced country in the world, has health care as a right. Everyone. They never say to their citizens, go die in the street. I've had people who came to my town halls say to me, if they repeal the Affordable Care Act, I die. I can't afford it. I can't afford the medicines I'm getting. The minute they repeal that, I'm going to die. And you realize, there's something true. So when I think about where we are, I am never disrespectful, angry, or unsympathetic to Republican voters. Never. They're just Americans like everybody else trying to figure out what to do. They were angry and voted for Trump because they thought the government had been purchased by corporations, that it didn't respect them or work for them, and that they would be overlooked, and they were very angry about it, and they felt like, okay, we're going to send a message. I thought their answer was wrong, but their feelings were absolutely appropriate. I agree with them. Corporations have bought the government. They didn't respect them. They weren't working for them. All the things they were angry about were true. So the question is, how can we actually come together and have a better life together and not be so divisive and not do all the bad things that Mr. Trump has done? Can we respond to that situation in a positive way? My answer is yeah. Give Americans the rights to health care and education, a living wage, and clean air and clean water. And let's say that's the foundation for everybody's life. Nobody's taking something from your kids or you. We're going to guarantee you security and freedom. Now let's go build the world we want. And that's my answer to Republicans is, don't get mad. The money that has been, the tax cuts have gone overwhelmingly to rich people. I mean, if you look at the numbers, it's kind of unbelievable. You get up into the 99% range. And if you look, working people haven't had a raise since 1980. They just haven't. And so that's 80 or 90% of America has not had a raise for 4 years. That's never happened before. 2 generations. And that proves these corporations own the government, because otherwise working people would have shared in the growth of America. So I really am listening to what you're saying here. And I really do hear we have to be prosperous. We've got to share it much, much more fairly. And the tax burden that has been taken off rich people has got to be returned to rich people. I actually proposed, I think I was the first person in Search to propose an asset tax on people with more than $32 million. It's like, you know what? It's just gotten too unfair. We need the money for programs. This is a fair way to do it.
Donna Gibbons, House Bluffs, Iowa. What's it going to take to get Trump's tax returns?
So there are a couple ways that we have a legal right at this point to Mr. Trump's tax returns. One of them is the state of New York. the state of New York, because he lives there, has sued him for his tax returns, and it's in litigation in the courts. So I think that is a place where it's going to happen. I think that there are a couple other places where he's being sued for his tax returns, but I'm not sure personally what his problem is.
What's he afraid of?
I don't know what he's not telling us. I do, it's a mystery to me too. I do think that when you come home and say to your kid, what's in the drawer, and he says nothing, you say, can I take a look? And he says no. It's kind of like, something's in the drawer. And the problem I have with Mr. Trump is he doesn't believe in acting in good faith with us. He lies all the time. And when he lies, there's a reason he's lying. And so, as soon as he refuses to give you something, you feel like, well, we definitely should see that. And we definitely have a right to see it in a couple of different ways. They're going to get subpoenaed, I'm sure, as part of this impeachment. And he is not going to deliver that. And if you'll remember, he came up with an excuse. He said, once I'm not being audited by the IRS, I'll deliver them, which was a lie. So, this is a guy who's not told us the truth in so many different ways. It is amazing to think that he could have gone this long without being held to account, which is why I was pushing for impeachment on the concept that everybody has to play by the rules of the United States of America, including the president, and we can't let somebody bully us and believe that he's above the law, which he clearly believes he's above the law.
Time for one more question.
Hi, Tom. Jill Shudak. I actually have two questions that kind of go back with that. On the off chance that he does not get impeached and we get the opportunity to vote him out, I think I know the answer, but I'd just like to have you say it. You would not pardon him, correct? For his crimes? No. Perfect. Exactly. Along the lines of the criminality, what are we going to do about his lifetime appointments to the judges across the country? I mean, that really weighs on me as far as things like coming after Roe v. Wade and him lining the courts. How do we even go about? He's a liar, and he's putting people on like Barr, who is going out to other countries to get them to buy into these conspiracy theories.
So, I don't know, Jill's question was really about the courts, and if you follow the numbers, Mr. Trump has appointed an issue about what's going on that Jill's bringing up, and it's true. And do I think that there are specific things we can do in specific instances, but this is one of the places where it's not just Mr. Trump who made this happen. This was, honestly, Merrick Garland is a perfect example where they wouldn't allow Barack Obama's appointment to the Supreme Court to be considered. And then they said to Mitch McConnell, if Trump appointed someone with a year to go, would you allow it to go? Things like, yes. So there's something going on here in the Republican Party about obeying the rules and being trustworthy and honest and consistent in what you say. And I think we can see that they have been playing hardball, that they have been doing whatever it takes, including things that I think are grossly illegal, like preventing African Americans to vote and striking them off the voter rolls.
Yeah.
And the example I use, and I like to use it because it's not deep south, is that Wisconsin in 2016, under Scott Walker, prevented 100,000 African Americans from voting, and Trump won Wisconsin by 22,000 votes. So when you think about whether this matters, it really matters. And we don't see it in our communities all the time, but it's happening across the United States in a very consistent attempt to basically subvert democracy. And when you think about what it took to get African Americans the right to vote over 400 years, what people sacrificed for that right, and then you think about striking them off the rolls. It seems not just criminal, but it really strikes at the heart of what American values are about justice and equality. And so when I see this, I mean, I am very, look, we're on 41 campuses in Iowa because Iowa's an important state. It's a swing state. We've been here since the beginning of 14. As I like to say, we were here trying to beat Joni Ernst in 2014. We'll be here in 2020 trying to beat Joni Ernst. Because it makes a huge difference. And, you know, it's really, to me, this is all about values. As I was saying, I don't mind disagreeing with people about anything, as long as I think they're telling the truth and putting Americans first. I'm sure we're all wrong on something, especially me. But I'm very, very upset when people don't tell the truth or put themselves ahead of the American people. And when you cheat the system like this, I really feel like you're putting yourself, your party, your opinions ahead of everybody else and treating yourself unfairly and treating the rest of us unfairly. And then I'm very, very upset. Because to me, we need to take back this government so it just serves us the way it's supposed to be. And the corruption going on there is really deep. I mean, you know, it's really deep. We pay 10 times as much for insulin as Canadians pay for insulin. And insulin was invented in 1930. That's just unacceptable. And it's illegal to drive to Canada and buy your insulin. I mean, if you're a drug company, I think they sit in their conference rooms and go like, let's do this. No, that's too crazy. No, let's do it. And you can see it, but I'm making a joke about it, but it's not funny. Because the cost to people, what it's taking out of their lives, how much it's eating up and making people scared to death. It is not funny. It's weighing on people all over this country. And so I just feel like it is time for the American people to rise up and push back really, really hard. And to not accept companies controlling the outcome and take back that power for us. That's how the country is organized. That's what it's supposed to be. So, I will say this. I really am asking for your support. But I will promise you this. People have thought I'd lose, and I've won against all these companies. People thought impeachment was a joke. 8 million Americans signed up, need to impeach. It's not a joke anymore. I promise you, we can beat these people, and every single morning I will get up with that in mind, aware that this country is supposed to be by and for the American people, not of, by, and for the richest corporations in the country. Every single day, and we will beat them. And we will stabilize this climate, and we will take back this country and have a lifestyle better than anybody in the history of the planet.
Let's do it.
Guaranteed.